want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Welcome back to Hacks on Hacks, the media criticism podcast preferred by dozens of savvy listeners. I'm Sonny Bunch, executive editor of the Washington Free Beacon and co-host of the Sub Beacon podcast. Joining me on my left, ironically, is Free Beacon senior writer Liz Harrington. Liz, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Sonny?
I'm doing very well. And joining me on my right, again, ironically, is Free Beacon staff writer and noted squish Alex Griswold. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm also good, Sonny. How are you?
First up, Reuters reporter Joseph Menn, who was working on a book about the hacking collective known as Cult of the Dead Cow, discovered in 2017 that Representative Beto O'Rourke had been a member of the group as a teenager. The congressman confirmed his membership in the organization in an interview with Menn for the book that was granted on the condition that any information revealed in it be held until after his 2018 Senate race against Ted Cruz. Liz, what other secrets might the press be holding on to in order to protect Robert O'Rourke's election chances from his own past?
Well, they don't really cover anything that we already know about his past, like the DUI and...
or his billionaire-ass
right.
wife.
There's plenty of stuff there. But yeah, I mean, imagine if Ted Cruz, the Zodiac Killer, had written fantasy fiction about mowing down 38 children in a murderous rage, and a Reuters reporter happened to come across it. I don't think the same deal would have been struck. Mm-hmm. It's just unheard of. I mean, I know he's writing a book, but you would, if it was the Republican in the race, you would not make a deal with this. You would move heaven and earth to try to confirm that he was a member of this group and get the story out.
Alex, I'm going to have thoughts on that in just a moment.
Okay.
But I was just curious because this is kind of your standard reply. Just imagine if.
Yes, it is.
Somebody did. So could you see the same thing happening with, say, Fox News or some other conservative outlet?
I mean, honestly, I could. I know what your take's going to be because I saw the tweets about it. And,
Hey.
I might unfortunately steal your points because I kind of agree. I don't think
not.
there was
Careful.
anything too scandalous going on here.
Oh my gosh.
I think Reuters handled this the way that they did, which is this is not a political reporter. He was a tech reporter who tripped onto a political story and sort of didn't know what to do about it. I think, and then afterwards, Reuters came clean to the public. They could have covered this up very easily, and they essentially said exactly what happened. And
Yeah,
I don't think it's a terrible
clean when it
explanation.
doesn't matter, and then they release it the day after he announces.
I will say this would have looked
2 years out, and when it's not even going to matter either. I mean, they would have released this if it was a Republican before the Senate election. It was a close race. I mean, come on.
I will say I might think this just because Beto lost. I mean, if we were sitting here talking about Senator Beto O'Rourke and they had this, it would feel a lot different.
Yes.
The fact that this had
I
been
think
covered up.
that's very true. No,
Yeah.
my take on this as a longtime journalist who has written many stories, very important stories in my day, is that this is a non-controversial, relatively standard thing that happens. If you are working on, he goes to Beto's people, he says, "Hey, I'm writing a book about this hacking collective. I'm pretty sure your boss was a member of this hacking collective. Let's talk about it." And they say, "No, we've got this race coming up. There's no benefit to us." And the guy goes back and he says, "Look, this book isn't going to come out until 2019. The race will be over. We're holding it until then. It's for the book." And they say, "Fine, we will do the interview on the condition that nothing from the interview comes out before this arbitrary date that we set that is the."
Just listen to that statement, though. That's so insane.
That's not
okay,
insane.
fine. I'll talk to you after.
That's not insane.
The race.
Well, but he.
Who was going to read this stupid book until Beto was in it?
The book.
No one.
The book takes 2 years to write, and then it has like a 6-month lead time. So the whole point is he couldn't actually do the interview after the election. The book is coming out in like 2 months. It's probably been done for almost a year.
My problem is not so much with this reporter. who, as you said, is not a political reporter. My problem is the editors, who I'm sure he came to with this information.
I don't know, 'cause he's writing a book, though.
They would have, if it was about Ted Cruz, they would have been like, screw your book, we're confirming this, and we're getting this out there. And it can still be in your book later.
But
they would have moved heaven and earth. I mean, think of all the dozens of reporters that were assigned to the dossier before the election. The problem was they could not confirm it because none of it was true.
You are assuming, and I think probably assuming incorrectly, that his Reuters editors were like monitoring his progress on this book and reading chapters and that sort of thing.
You think he didn't tell anybody when he came across and figured it out? It was Beto?
I don't know.
Who's running this high-profile campaign?
I have no idea. I have no idea either way, but I'm not going to assume either way either. But like the point is, we have had writers here go on book leave. I do not get chapter updates from them when they go on book leave. That just it's.
Well, yeah, and they also didn't during their book leave find like a bombshell big story about a Democrat. And if so, I think Matt would be like, yeah, let's track down this story.
Well, part of it is I don't see this as all that bad of a story for Beto to begin with. Like, he's the skateboarder punk rock guy. The fact that he was in some super secret hacker collective is almost a plus in his book.
Yeah, I don't know if those poems, and especially the cow one, I don't know if this helps
the
him
cow
at
one is a
all.
work of art.
He's
Thank you
such
very much.
a weirdo. He's such a creep. Gosh.
We should do a dramatic reading of the cow poem. If Matthew Walter were still here.
We need to get him to do that.
All right. Let's move along. Next up, speaking of ethics in journalism, the National Enquirer paid $200,000 to the brother of Jeff Bezos' lover for access to text messages that led to the end of the Amazon owner's marriage. Let's listen to a clip explaining exactly what's going on here.
The Wall Street Journal reports that the National Enquirer paid $200,000 to Michael Sanchez, the brother of Jeff Bezos' lover, to get racy photos in text messages. The battle between Bezos and the Enquirer began after the magazine published an 11-page story in January that included some of his text messages. Bezos has accused AMI, the publisher of the Enquirer, of extortion and blackmail.
Alex, I have a question.
Go for it.
What strikes you as more unethical? Paying a source to run a story, paying a source to get a story, or paying a source not to run a story?
I would say those are equally unethical.
Okay.
Yes. I would say what is also unethical is what Jeff Bezos did, which was to make out that Saudi Arabia was responsible for his text messages being hacked. When
he kind of hinted at that in his
certainly
Medium
hinted at
post.
that, and
Yes.
then I think he had some investigator who did a lot of media hits who hinted at it as well. And of course, plenty of people who love that angle just seized upon it.
They pounced.
Yeah, I mean,
They pounced on the Trump Saudi Arabia angle.
is anyone surprised that this is happening? That the National Enquirer is super corrupt?
Yeah,
I just sort of
sure.
assumed that was the case, probably my entire life.
Yeah. Liz, if you are about to marry a guy or marry the sister of, I'm sorry. If you're the brother of a girl who's about to marry a guy who's worth like, I don't know, $100 billion, whatever he's worth at this point, do you take that $200,000 quick payout?
Interesting.
Or do you
Were
hold
they ever
on?
going to get married, though? I mean,
I think they're.
Are they?
They're
together?
still engaged.
This guy might be better
He's
to
in
judge
love
than any of us.
Jeff Bezos. He's in love.
Well, he probably. Well, I don't know, because does he have a great relationship with the sister? I mean, he must have been able to get her phone, right?
He got access
So
to
would
her
he get
text
the
somehow.
money from Bezos? I don't know. He wanted the money now, I guess. He didn't want to wait.
Yeah, you don't really want to rely on the kindness of Jeff Bezos. You know, maybe in the future you'll get a nice little payout.
But no, I love this because obviously this was the most likely scenario and explanation for how the National Enquirer got the text. But of course, the media, who is full of full-blown conspiracy theorists, as we've seen, just runs with this Saudi Arabia nonsense.
Yeah.
And I was looking at Meet the Press, like after Bezos came out with this and hinted that it was the Saudis. Katie Tur is like going on about, it's such a great, fascinating story at the National Enquirer. And then the Saudis are involved. I mean, this is one of those stories that seems tabloidy at first, but could end up being very large the further you get into it. It has a lot of potential. These people are insane. Obviously, they paid for him, and obviously the brother was like a Trump fan too, so it's like he didn't... The whole story made so much sense to begin with. They didn't need to invent and run with this crazy conspiracy.
Yeah. All right. Finally, let's get back to Beto O'Rourke. That's the real news this week is Beto. Female journalists at The Cut want to know, is he, quote, totally kind of hot? End quote. Anna Silman states that, quote, he is hot for sure, while Izzy, just Izzy.
Right.
No, I wasn't 100%
trying to figure out
sure.
who she was.
Yeah, I didn't care enough to look at their actual masthead. But
No,
anyway.
me either.
Izzy says she, quote, can't tell if I'm horny for him or just horny for the opportunity to make Fugazi jokes in the year 2019. And then things got weird. Okay? Allison Davis praised his, quote, extremely long teeth, end quote, as well as his nice feet. So here's, someone had suggested that we use this as the worst Prince story of the week, and frankly, it's in the
there.
running.
Certainly,
it's in the running. But this actually strikes me as the best Prince story of the week for the simple reason that it actually hits at something very true that has been unsaid. It makes text what has been subtext so far, which is that Beto is actually just popular because he's hot. Right, Liz?
Okay.
Liz?
First of all, he's not hot. As
I don't
Rush
know about
Limbaugh
that.
has always said, politics is showbiz for the ugly. This is it. I mean, if you're even remotely attractive, you are the biggest star because politics is showbiz for the ugly. If you are commenting about the how a politician makes you horny, that is not the sign of mental well-being. I would just say you need help. But I do like this story actually because they're just stating what like you said, the rest of the media clearly thinks. That's why they're into Beto. I mean, they identify with him and they think he's the new star and he's Kennedy-esque, as we've seen all those profiles say. And like the Kennedys weren't hot either. But again, nobody is hot in politics, so it's such a low bar that, oh my gosh, he's our savior now.
He really has kind of a horse face every time I see him. It's
Gross.
Alex, I saw you tweet earlier today that you really love Beto. He's actually your favorite.
I think so.
of all
Well, actually,
time.
you know what? That was
Alex thinks he's hot.
That is true, actually. But
Ew.
you might have misread my tweet. I actually said that I think I genuinely despise Beto O'Rourke.
Jeez.
And that's the funniest part is that you've seen this flood of like really puff pieces of inside looks at Beto. That
How
sort of
many
thing.
profiles have been? I was going to count them before the show, and I lost
think it's
track.
too many.
It's
You can't
there's been at least 20 solid long form profiles.
Total, like throughout his.
Yeah.
Oh my god, must be in the 20s.
Yeah.
But I would. Oh god, I mean the Beto stuff. I do genuinely hate him. I think that's what's ironic is that it's all about look what a smart, look what a reasoned man he is, and every single quote makes my skin crawl or makes me just want to string. I've never had this visceral of a hate for a politician before in my life. I went a little overboard because I printed out like every quote from a Beto profile that I hated, and the list got too long.
It was the entire thing.
Our studio audience
This is
the entire 5,000 word.
Yeah,
Vanity
he
Fair
literally just
article.
pulled out 17 pages
I'm holding-
of typewritten notes here. Hold on.
So many pages. I don't even know where to start. The foot stuff is probably the worst.
Ooh, do the foot stuff.
For me, Beto's attractiveness is in the details. I like his extremely long teeth, and he has nice feet. As evidence in that Vanity Fair
Sick
spread.
people.
I zoomed in on his bare feet and sent the picture to my friends and said, Beto has nice, smooth feet.
Nice, smooth feet.
This is probably trite, but can you imagine like a male journalist like typing out, I zoomed in on
with the foot
Gillibrand's
fetish.
feet.
Ew.
I sent
gosh.
pictures to all my friends.
I like to think about
feet.
I like to think about Amy Klobuchar throwing binders at me, chained up to my bed.
Whoa, Sonny, I didn't know you were.
Hey, I'm doing a bit here. This is not what I actually think about. Definitely. What are some more? Do some more of the good pieces out of that.
So this is the part that made me hate him, for the record. The lead to the Washington Post piece is Beto had just returned from his favorite hike in the nearby Franklin Mountains. His head was still in the clouds. That's awful to begin with. But he continues. I read Amy this passage last night for the best interview I've ever read, he said. It's about myth and different religions. And it said so much. Much the way you're unconscious and you're subconscious. And then he cuts in, sorry, I'm saying both of those words wrong. His wife has to correct him on how to say subconscious. And then he goes on, oh yeah, the same way your subconscious is the author of your dreams, Beto said, leaning forward to rub his bare feet, which elicited a slight groan
Dude,
from
put
Amy.
some shoes on.
What
It's
is
disgusting.
Why is he always in bare
He's
feet?
always
I
barefooted.
think Beto read the
That's
New
what-
York piece and
yeah.
said, yes, I have to just start showing off
Oh,
the
this
feet.
works.
All right, so he's cornered the furry
is the
community.
angle.
He's now going after the foot fetish community. I'm
Right.
curious what the next line of attack here is.
His base of support is all the degenerates of society.
Well, I'm just excited to watch him hop on top of things for the rest of us.
With those nasty feet.
disgusting. Well, he's usually wearing shoes when he's out in public.
I don't know. For now.
Yeah, how long is that going to last?
All right, now we turn to producer and bon vivant Andrew Kugel. Andrew, what do you have for us this week?
I have something from CNN. They just tweeted out on yesterday that CNN's Parkland Town Hall has been honored with a Cronkite Award. Congrats to Jake Tapper and the team who helped advance the national conversation on gun control and violence. This was from CNN's PR team Twitter account. And if you remember, about a year ago, CNN hosted a town hall with the Parkland kids and Senator Marco Rubio and other elected leaders. And it was titled, "The Students of Stoneman Douglas Demand Action." It's kind of funny in retrospect. After the town hall aired, everyone trashed the town hall that was conducted.
It was awful.
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
was like just ginning up a mob against the NRA and Republicans.
yeah, I mean, the one kid who...
Dana Lash had a lot of good tweets responding to
Yeah,
this.
she had a good Twitter thread. One kid, Cameron Kasky, who was big gun control advocate, like told Marco Rubio basically, looking at you is like looking at the shooter who killed my friends. And that kid even like apologized for that. He's like, I quote, "I look back on that day and I say, you know what? There were people who had just been buried, and when you're looking at somebody that you find might in some way have been complicit in this murder, obtaining the weapon, it's hard not to say something like that. But I went into the wanting less conversation and more to embarrass Rubio, and that was my biggest flaw." Like, so like he even admit that 7 days after you watch your friends get killed, it's probably not the best to host a town hall with these people.
And they gave that Sheriff Israel, who's now fired, a platform to just lie. I mean, that guy was one of the worst people.
I mean, this town hall just...
This was not journalism.
It also
was
created
propaganda.
tons of bad narratives. Like Allison Camerado, like got in it with Dana Lesh, and when Dana Lesh said like the town hall allowed like kids to call me a bad mother and that I wanted to dead kids, and I remember Camerado going, "No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen," with video evidence backing Lesh. So I mean, the fact that they're getting a Walter Cronkite Award on this is just embarrassing.
It was,
and then promoting it.
No, it was actually funny because I saw Dana Lash had criticized, made fun of, or said, "I can't believe this happened," and Jake Tapper unfollowed her on Twitter.
Oh my
Twitter
gosh.
drop. Jake Tapper is the thinnest skinned.
You're gonna get a
person.
DM after this.
He's gonna slide it. He's not gonna slide into my DMs. I don't follow him. He doesn't follow me. The only people who follow me can send me DMs. I have a very strict no sliding policy from randos, like Jake Tapper. But I mean, it really is. It's something else, because I do remember everybody like crapping all over this ridiculous thing.
It was awful, and it wasn't journalism.
No,
at
no.
all.
I mean, town halls in general are bad.
Yeah.
But that town hall
But that
in particular,
because it was right
was
after
stupid.
the shooting, and it was so much misinformation, and it
was
was
just
just so much
framed to-
hatred too.
Yeah.
It's not the healing conversation that we needed.
We should do a healing conversation here at the Free Beacon. We should invite some people over, have some brews, talk about how we can fix our country.
You had me at had some brews.
Dr. Pondriver can come.
Dr. Pondriver,
can lead it,
the Wright and
actually.
Writers. Dr. Pondriver can be a big helper here. All right, is that it, Andrew?
That's all I have.
That's all you have this week?
Yep.
Usually you have two things.
It's just CNN.
Just one
being
thing this
crappy.
week?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's enough to hold us over.
Slacker. All right, now it's time for my favorite part of the show, the worsts.
The worst.
Liz, what were the worst tweets this week?
Okay, the worst tweets were, as our listeners, I'm sure, saw, those terrible NYU students who accosted a very pregnant Chelsea Clinton, who was attending the vigil for the New Zealand mosque shootings, confronted her, blamed her, bizarrely, for the shooting. And then, obviously, posted this video on Twitter. It goes viral. And then they tweeted that they wanted Venmo.
Yes.
They wanted their Venmo accounts for money for
Yes.
this horrific stunt. So one of the girls, Rose Ossoff, tweeted, "No offense, but Venmo her," the other girl, Leanne Dweck, I don't know how to say it.
Doesn't matter.
But Venmo her for her work or me, and they gave their accounts. Also, BuzzFeed gave them a huge platform, which I read this op-ed explaining why they attacked Chelsea Clinton, because they said she is behind the bigoted anti-Muslim mob coming after Ilhan Omar, which they said Omar was speaking the truth about the massive influence of the Israel lobby in this country. They never actually quote what Chelsea Clinton said, which all she said was, "I agree, as an American, no one, regardless of political party, should traffic in anti-Semitism." And Ilhan Omar, third time at least, she is trafficked in anti-Semitism. So basically, BuzzFeed gave a platform for more anti-Semitic people. They wanted money off of all of this.
Which tweet, in your opinion, was worse? The tweet with the video attacking Chelsea Clinton, or the tweet where they're begging for money after? Because
begging for money, probably. Well, I don't know. The whole thing.
I don't know that you can
it all
separate the two,
started
yeah.
because of that.
You think they're equally bad,
I
or
think
they're bad in tandem?
I think they are bad for the same reason, which is look at us, shower us with praise. That was their intention of going to a vigil.
I know.
A vigil and attacking and berating a pregnant woman who did
And say
nothing
she was
wrong.
personally responsible for the blood is on your hands.
This is a feel-good story. Them being like hounded off social media.
Yeah,
Just
reality I should
slapping them in
mention,
the face.
that account no longer exists, which is good. I mean, they wanted a response. They got, I think, the opposite
They got
were
a
looking
response.
for. Yeah.
My 2 cents on this is that I find it fascinating that we're here defending Chelsea Clinton.
I know.
This is.
I'm surprised she hasn't apologized yet. 'Cause
It
they're
is, yeah.
demanding in the
Ooh.
BuzzFeed article that she apologize for
It'll
anti-Muslim.
happen 20 years from now when she runs.
Yeah, when she runs for president.
Gosh, can you imagine how far left the party will be by then?
Do I have any regrets? Well, there was this one time I went after Ilhan Omar and said she was an anti-Semite. She was kind of an anti-Semite, but I shouldn't have said that because then those people got shot in New Zealand as a result.
I'm just so terrified that those two kids are seniors at NYU. I mean,
NYU, the school that now has hired Chicken Kiev. What's her name? Talia Levin.
Yeah, Talia Levin.
And
currently hires Lauren Duca.
and
oh
pays Lauren
gosh.
Journalism.
Are you
Both of them.
serious?
Yes. The journalism students are learning a lot these days. Good stuff.
Man.
All right. Alex, could you tell us about the worst print story this week?
The worst print story this week comes to us courtesy of Slate. I'm sure I'll be saying that a few
Woo.
times in the next few years. But
You've been doing this show for a few
Oh
years.
God! Oh, no.
I just flashed forward to a few years from now and thinking of how much I want to kill myself. Go on.
All right, the headline of this piece is, speaking of misplaced blame, the Christchurch shootings should implicate all white Australians. The Christchurch shootings were carried out by a single white Australian. What I particularly like about this piece is how she admits within the body just how stupid the whole thing is. The lead is, who is responsible for the terrorist attack that killed at least 50 New Zealanders? Looked at one way, the answer is simple. The shooter alone bears guilt for his crimes. You start off so good.
Okay,
but,
end of peace. End of peace.
Wow.
but then she
That was a short
continues.
op-ed.
20-word op-ed. All right, that's great.
Sadly, she does continue. And she says after that, but why do I feel so guilty? Which really sums up like the entire point of the piece, which is I feel white guilt, and so I'm going to write about it. But in case, and why am I so angry not just at the obvious targets, but at my country? I'm a white Australian. And then this is the sentence I love. I know that blaming myself and my cohort is illogical.
Okay.
Boom.
End
End it right there. Maybe,
Got
in
it.
fact, delete everything that you had written up to this point and say, sorry, I'll file something else, but she continues. But I can't escape the feeling that all of white Australia is implicated in their deaths. I mean, this is the sort of thing that is explicitly denounced whenever it comes to Islamic terrorist attacks. And in fact, when there was an Islamic terrorist attack in Australia, Australia did a very good job of rallying behind the Muslim community, saying the hashtag was like "I'll ride with you," I believe, because Muslims said that they felt personally blamed and they didn't feel safe in public. So Australia did the exact opposite of what she's saying. They didn't foster racism; they've been anti-racism. But I guess the acts of one few is I don't know. I'll start that sentence over. Maybe we can edit out, but probably not. It'll probably.
I'm going to leave it in there.
Yeah.
Can we give a quick shout out to that AP story on the Ferguson body count?
Oh, yeah.
That you wrote about yesterday? Because that was my least favorite print story of the week, I think.
That one was pretty bad.
Could you just explain very briefly?
Yeah, briefly. There's a conspiracy out there that it's called. I called it Ferguson body count. I think I termed it that because, of course, I was playing off the Clinton body count. The idea is that there have been 6 people who died in the past 5 years who are tangentially related to Ferguson. Therefore, shadowy government assassins are killing them one by one. Unfortunately, AP kind of ran with the story with this, the headline of which was, "Isn't it puzzling that these people are dying?" Rather than something straight up like, "Isn't it bad that people are believing like some completely crazy government conspiracy?"
Again, they're all conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. If you haven't read the piece, I do recommend you read it because I do break down one by one
I
why
always love
none
a
of the
good
deaths
conspiracy,
none of the deaths are
so.
mysterious. And
Well, you
very-
believe in the Clinton body count. You
I
think
mean,
it's pretty mysterious.
Come on, that's true.
50 dead. So
The numbers don't lie.
The Clinton body count is not true because it doesn't go past 1.
Squish.
Vince Foster.
yes, it's true. Vince Foster.
Vince Foster. That's the right.
R.I.P.
Well,
All right. Thank you, Alex.
just asking questions.
Thank you, Alex. All right. Andrew, what was the worst TV clip this week?
Worst TV clip comes from Katie Tur opining about global warming again. I feel like we have a lot of her doing this.
Yeah.
She's the
She loves it.
worst.
So we have the clip. We can play it quick.
All right. Let's listen to that.
That's going to do it for me. Ali Velshi, I had climate change as part of my curriculum
Did
when
you
I was
really?
in elementary and middle school. I remember I would have climate activists or Save the Whales activists or recycling activists come in and tell us what we can do in order to ensure that we are keeping the environment clean. We, if we had the 6-packs for soda cans, those plastic
That's right, yeah.
holders,
Yeah.
you snip them so
'cause those
turtles
really-
don't
turtles
get
and
hot.
ducks would get-
or even better, you put them into a recycling bin
Yeah.
if they can be recycled. We had all this composting.
And
Maybe
yet,
it's because I'm from
27%
California.
of Americans still do not accept that climate change is a real thing. Now,
Keep reading science that's not actually science.
Yeah,
it's just a
there's-
bunch of bloviators.
these kids'
Bloviating.
demands are not unusual. There's nothing weird about them. It's like, you know what? We're wrecking the earth. Let's just stop wrecking the earth.
When did we start demonizing science? When did it become acceptable to demonize science? ExxonMobil.
Well, I would go further back than that. I would say cigarettes.
Well, yeah.
Right?
So that started it. This.
But yeah, it's all the same. The
Yes.
merchants of doubt have been in petroleum, have been in tobacco, climate. Yeah, we believe the outliers.
They use the tobacco playbook.
Correct.
The merchants of doubt,
Yes.
the tobacco playbook for oil companies to come in and say there's actually a lot of questions about
Yeah,
this
there
to
aren't that
protect
many
their own
questions.
interests.
There aren't that many questions.
Yeah, so some highlights. She's like bragging about how her school in California was taught recycling in terms of
recycling.
Yeah, my backwoods school in
Scam.
Wisconsin didn't have that. You know,
Recycling is a scam.
I know. There's all these articles about it now too. I mean, it's declining because it is such a scam.
It was never even really
You can't-
recycling.
well,
we were
and
just
China
shipping
won't-
stuff over to China.
Exactly. And then they said, okay, we're not going to accept it anymore if you're going to come out with our Netflix documentaries shaming us for taking your trash.
Man.
my favorite thing though in the clip is her saying
Fired
like,
up.
recycling does this. You know, my favorite clip or part of the clip was when she's like, when was it okay to demonize science? Like they just. You know, praise be science. I like to science. That's how Katie.
I love
Also,
science. I effing love science.
Yeah, that is the type of person Katie Tur is.
What are they talking about? Clearly, they're teaching this in school because all these kids are so indoctrinated that they're out in the streets saying the world's going to end.
They
in
skipped
12
school
years.
last Friday for this. You know,
I wish I
It's
could have skipped school when I was
absurd.
growing up to protest things that don't matter.
I know.
but that's not all. Then Velshi and her, because it was during the trade-off, that Ali Velshi was like blaming cigarette companies for the demonizing of science before the oil companies
This was
did.
a real meeting of the minds,
yeah.
this back and forth.
That 2 to 3 o'clock handoff is
You
There's
never
always
know what
something.
you're gonna
Dynamite.
get.
Yeah.
Dynamite every week.
And then, they use I think the tobacco company phrase of like merchants of doubt to like classify climate deniers and just stellar clip altogether.
We need a new thank you for smoking that's about the environmentalist lobby
Yeah.
and the anti-environmentalist lobby. That would be Christopher Buckley, get on that. Need a sequel. All right. And of course, we at the Free Beacon aren't perfect. We mess up sometimes. We make mistakes. So the worst of the Beacon this week is once again me. I'm terrible again.
Typical.
Frankly, I thought we were going to go all week without having a worst of the week. Until late yesterday, we were still struggling to find somebody, but I goofed up. I made fun of Timothy Chalamet. He's the annoying actor from the noted peach-banging movie Call Me By Your Name and the grotesquely nice Lady Bird. Apparently, if you make fun of this little dork, his fans will come after you and call you things like, quote, jealous and, quote, middle-aged. First off, middle-aged is kind of pushing.
That's a stretch.
I'm like late.
You got time.
I'm like mid-30s. Is that really? That is basically middle-aged. I assume I'll probably be dead by 70. So,
well, maybe.
They're right. Of course, I am both jealous and terrible and annoying. But that doesn't change the fact that Timothy Chalamet is the worst and his fans are the worst.
Yeah, I love how you tweeted out from Back to the Future. They found me. They found me.
Well, because
I had to look this guy up, and then I realized, oh, that's that little bastard from Homeland, who were the worst kid actors, the worst kid plots in the history of television.
Yeah,
unwatchable.
He's not good, and I'm slightly distressed that he's going to be the lead in the Dune adaptation.
And that is going to bomb so hard. I'm calling it now.
Yeah.
Timothy.
He's
such a weird spell. Ugh,
Timothy with 2 E's at the end. I hate him so much.
Team Sunny on this.
I hate him so much. But they did find me. They found me.
Now we have to see if they find the podcast.
Yeah, we got to see if they listen to the podcast.
Oh gosh.
All the negative reviews.
All right. That's all the time we have for this week. Make sure to review us on iTunes unless you like Timothy Chalamet. And tell your friends that we exist. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you. See you guys next week.